Hi, welcome to my home. My name is Kathy, and in today's video, we're going to be dehydrating peas. I'm also going to talk about how to condition your dehydrated vegetables and how to store the food once it's done dehydrating. So when we come back, we'll be in my kitchen, and we're going to get this put together. Today I'm going to be dehydrating frozen peas, but you can also dehydrate fresh shelled peas. If you do the fresh peas, you'll just want to make sure you blanch the peas in hot water for 4 minutes. And then, once you're done blanching, make sure you take them out and immediately submerge them in ice water to stop the cooking process, and then put the peas on the trays. You can also do this with canned peas. I haven't tried that, but one of the dehydrating books that I have mentions that canned peas are one of the canned vegetables that rehydrate well. So if you're interested in that, if you'd like to see that, let me know in the comment section, and I'll do a comparison. I can do dehydrate some fresh, some frozen, and some canned peas, and then show what the end result for each of them is to see if that's something you'd want to consider doing. But today we're going to do the frozen peas. This is a 5-pound bag of peas. I need to get it out of my freezer to make some room. So I'm just going to open the bag, and this cannot be any simpler. Since these are frozen, the blanching has already been done for me. So what I have here are my dehydrator trays, and I have a mesh lining that I put on top of them, just so because the peas would fall through the regular tray. And these liners, they were not specific for my dehydrator tray. These were for, I think, a larger, just rectangular tray, maybe like an Excalibur. My dehydrator is a Cabela's brand, so it's just a store brand, and it has this, curve at the top, and it's a little narrower than the Excalibur ones. So I just bought the screen. It's just the mesh screen. And I cut them to fit my dehydrator trays. So all we're going to do is lay our peas out on the tray. Put a little in the middle. I'll put that back in there. And you just want to lay them out in a single layer. You don't want them layered up. So you want them to get good airflow. And these will take, anywhere, 8 to 12 hours to dehydrate. I usually just throw them in the dehydrator and just let them go till they're done. It all depends on how hot it is outside, if there's any humidity in the air. My dehydrator is set up in my garage, so it is pretty subject to whatever the temperature is. You may find if you have your dehydrator in the house where it's a little bit more of a temperature controlled environment, that the dehydrating times may vary for you. Where I live, there's rarely any humidity in the air. We're very dry. So during the summertime, things dehydrate pretty fast. not concerned about, you know, some of these having a little bit of ice on them. The ones with the big chunks of ice, I'll just run those under some water to melt the ice, just so that I can get my peas to lay flat. I'll go ahead and just put the chunks out in a bowl just to get them out of the way. And that'll make it easier to thaw them out. One of the benefits of dehydrating your frozen vegetables is that it saves freezer space. When you dehydrate them, it doesn't take up much space at all. It also makes it pretty light, so you can pack them away a lot easier. Now, when I use peas in cooking, I tend to put them in dishes. Like if I have like a pea carrot mix or just a pea mix, I might rehydrate them and put them in, say, like fried rice, or I'd use like a mixed vegetable in a pot pie. I don't usually serve peas as just a side, you know, the vegetable side dish on their own. If I were to do that with a vegetable, I would probably leave it in its frozen form instead of dehydrating it, just because I think that the texture is better if you're just going to be eating the vegetable. But if you're going to be putting it in other dishes, dehydrating is a great option. Saves freezer space, makes it much more compact for storing, and you don't have to worry, you know, and it makes it shelf stable as well. I might have put a little too much on this one. That's right, it'll still work out. Now, if you don't have a dehydrator, you can also use your oven to dehydrate. Or if you live in a very sunny climate like I do, you can even dehydrate outside in the sun. At least most things you can do that with. Now, putting it in the dehydrator, if you have a temperature setting on your dehydrator, you'll want to set it to about 135 for most vegetables. If you are doing it in your oven, most ovens don't go down to 135. So just put it on the lowest setting that your oven will allow. And doing it in the oven, since it would be at a bit higher of a temperature, I know my oven will go down to 170 degrees, that's Fahrenheit. It just won't take as long, so you want to definitely keep an eye on it. If you're doing it in the oven, keep a close eye on it, because it will dehydrate faster than if you were using a regular dehydrator. And now even my microwave is a microwave, air fryer, convection oven combo unit. And I believe it also has a setting for dehydrating. So if you have one of those, types of microwaves, check to see if it has a dehydrator function. So you might be able to use that as well. Okay, so now that my trays are full, I'm going to get these downstairs and in the dehydrator. And when I come back, we'll talk about how to condition your vegetables for storage. And we'll also talk about different ways to store your dehydrated vegetables or fruit or whatever it is that you've dehydrated so that it will last as long as you need it to on your shelf. Okay, so once you've dehydrated your vegetables, you're going to want to put them in a glass jar and let them sit out on your counter for a few days. And what this is going to do is, if there's any moisture left in your vegetables, you'll be able to see the condensation on the inside of the jar. And then that way you know you need to take it out of the jar and put it back in the dehydrator so that it can dehydrate a little bit longer. Because you don't want any moisture in your jars, because that is going to be the enemy of your food. So to have it last as long as possible, you want to make sure that there isn't any moisture in the jars. One thing I did want to mention about dehydrating vegetables is if you're dehydrating mushrooms, I would suggest doing the mushrooms from fresh and not frozen. These are mushrooms that I dehydrated. They were already sliced up. It was a big batch of them from one of the big box stores. And I dehydrated these. These are great. These are what I used to make the mushroom powder that I used in the mushroom gravy, dry gravy mix that I made. I'll go ahead and link that video below if you want to see that. But these turned out really nice. They rehydrate very nice. And they have a nice color to them. Now these were some frozen sliced mushrooms that I had, that I went ahead and dehydrated to see how they would turn out. And they turned very dark. So maybe I had them in the dehydrator too long. I'm not sure, but they're just very paper thin, because I think they're just they were thin to begin with, and dehydrating them, I just don't like the results. So I will not be dehydrating pre-frozen mushrooms again, but dehydrating fresh mushrooms worked out great. Now for storing, you can just place it in a jar with a lid on it, or any container, plastic container, whatever container you have, with a lid on it, if you're going to be using it fairly soon. So, if you're going to be using it within a couple of months and you're just going to be, continually dipping into it, then just stick it in on your shelf with just a regular lid on it, and it'll be perfectly fine. It will last a few months just in a jar like this. Now, if you want to leave it in a jar so it's available, but you don't want to, you're not going to be dipping into it as, quickly as the regular lid, you want it to last a little bit longer, then in that case, you can vacuum seal your jars. So whether you have the regular mouth or the wide mouth, if you use one of these attachments, you can either use your Seal-A-Meal adapter, or what I did is I bought one of these little food saver adapters. These are made for using with those bags that you can seal directly on the bag, but you can also take off the cap, and it has this little port here, and you can stick that port into the top of your lid and seal it. So just want to wait until you hear a sound change. It's probably good. And there you have it. You have a nice sealed jar. And we can do that with this one as well. This one had more air in it because it has less food in it. Now this one is probably going to pull off the ring. Yeah, it does. The rubber gasket always comes out with that one. So I will just pop it back into place. And there you have sealed jars. Now if you don't have a food saver attachment, you can also throw an oxygen absorber in your jar and then just seal it up. That will also absorb all the oxygen and it'll give you a nice tight seal in your jar. Now these are ready to go on the shelf. And these will last, probably a year, maybe even a year and a half on the shelf, just like this, with it nice and sealed. Now another storage option, if you want something for more long-term, is to use mylar bags. They have, they come in various sizes. You can get them even smaller than this one and larger than this one, but you could put them in mylar bags along with oxygen absorbers, and they will last for years. Now if you get mylar bags, you don't need anything fancy to seal them. What I use is a straight iron that you would use for your hair. I bought one that's specifically for using with my mylar bags, and it just seals it nicely. You can also use a regular iron, put your seam on like a piece of wood and then iron on it. You just want to make sure you don't hold the iron in one place for too long because it will, melt it straight through. But that's another option as well if you want to use mylar bags. Now something I want to mention about using the mylar bags, you may have heard or seen on other channels where they're talking about Amazon telling sellers that after, I think it's August 5th, they're not going to be able to sell certain types of mylar bags on the Amazon site. From what I was reading on it when I was researching this, they are still going to allow single colored bags and bags that have see-through windows. Now for long-term food storage, you wouldn't want to have a bag that had a see-through window. You'd want one that is mylar on both sides. These ones are technically single color, so they will still be allowed. But if the colored ones are being discontinued and people are going there and they usually get the colored ones, the multicolored bags, then if those are no longer available, then they're most likely going to be turning to the single colored bags to make their purchase, which is going to make the single colored bags maybe a little bit harder to come by, or the prices may increase. So my advice to you is if you were thinking about mylar bags, or if you are in need of getting mylar bags right now, then I would suggest going ahead and making your purchase now before they make them unavailable on the website, or before the ones that you like to get have a price increase or are harder to come by because of supply and demand. You may also want to look into going directly to the seller's website to make your purchase. So the mylar bags are still going to be available. So don't let anybody scare you into thinking that all mylar bags are being banned, because they're not. But the availability of the ones that you want to get may not be there. So just do your due diligence and make sure that you have the supplies that you need so that you can properly store your food for long-term food security. Another option for storing your dehydrated foods is food saver bags. Whether they are the pre-made bags or the bags that you cut and seal yourself. This is also a great option. It won't last as long as the mylar bags, but it will last longer than, say, just putting it in the jar. You could also, if you don't have, say you don't have oxygen absorbers, you could put your dehydrated food in a food saver bag. Use your food saver to suck the oxygen out and seal it. You could also place your sealed food saver bag inside of a mylar bag and then seal up the mylar bag. And that will give you long-term food storage with the oxygen removed. So those are some ideas on how to store your dehydrated food for long-term pantry storage. If you have any ideas on, how you store your dehydrated foods, please leave your ideas in the comments below so that we can all learn from each other, so that we can all be better prepared going into the future. Because none of us know what the future has to hold. So all we can do is the best we can with the information we have and use it to prepare for what might be coming down the road. Well, I hope you liked today's video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified each time I put out a new video. Well, until next time, I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye now.